Art Studio. Today we're going to talk a little bit about drawing, and the very first aspect of drawing that we need to learn to do is learning how to see edges. The other thing we need to do is to learn how to take the three-dimensional plane and flatten it onto a picture plane. So one of the ways that you can do that is with a couple of simple tools, especially if you're just learning how to draw. So for instance, when I'm out in the woods and I'm painting and I want to paint a scene, I will sometimes take something like this plexiglass and I will look through it to get my view. And this is basically my zoom in and out. And what I will do, and what we do when we draw, and to draw an edge, is we shut one eye. And we shut one eye and we find a view. And we don't move our head, we don't move our chin or, this picture plane while we're drawing. So what you do is you shut one eye, you look at what you're going to draw. And I'll be drawing this mug and we'll take it from there. Okay, so here I have this piece of plexiglass with a format drawn around it and these crosshairs. I want to make sure that when I'm looking through this format that I have a nice big mug inside of that. I'm always looking for a nice composition. So I'm not going to move my head or my hands. I'm going to have one view. I have one eye shut and I'm looking at those edges. And this pen that I'm using, it's going to be a little bit wobbly. It's hard to hold it exactly, without moving. But I'm just looking for all the edges that I see. Not worrying about perfection, just getting the main shape put down. The hardest part is not moving your hand as you do this. Maybe I'm going to draw in, I see the edge of the shadow quite strongly in there. I'm going to draw that as well. Alrighty, so I have that mug drawn in there and it's sitting on this little ledge. So maybe I'll draw that ledge too. Okay, so there I have, very quickly, a little line drawing of the mug. Basically what we did when we shut one eye and drew the mug onto this plexiglass is we took the three-dimensional object and flattened it onto that picture plane. So when you're learning how to draw, this is a very helpful tool to help you to see that change from 3D to 2D. So after you've taken whatever object you want to draw, such as this, you can then draw this shape with the crosshairs onto a piece of paper. And what that does is you're representing this. This will represent what's on here. So now I can draw this onto my paper by looking at this piece of plexiglass and the drawing inside of it. And what I'm going to do is look inside of each of these sections. So I can even ignore everything else but that little piece there. And then I'll just do a little judgment call and I'll go, okay, so this edge here looks like it starts just a little bit above half of this and this. So I'm just going to put a little mark there and go, it's approximately there. And it's important too that you draw, put this across from each other so that they're level. And it just makes it a little easier for you to do your drawing. So I can put a little index mark there. And then the next edge I see is this one here. And I can go in this section like this. I go, okay, it's a little bit to the left of half, and I'll put a little mark there. And then the next thing I see that crosses over these lines is this thing here, and it's just a little bit above half of this to this section. So I go a little bit above half and approximately there. Next edge I see crossing is this one, and they're about a third the way across this. So I'm going to go and I'm going to put about a third. And these are judgment calls. Don't use a ruler, that'll just confuse you. Just do an approximate ratio. Next, start drawing in some of the lines that you see. And just, do a bit of a guess as to where they go. So the edge that I can actually see the easiest is this one. There's only a slight curve on it, so I'll put that in. And it's interesting, it's actually easier to draw a curved line using short straight lines like this. And then I know this comes out somewhere here, so I'll just do some short curved lines and take a little bit of a guess. Now when I look at this shape here and the shape inside, this looks a little bit fat, so I'm going to erase this, and I see this angles down just a little bit more, so let's correct that. Alright, so there's that edge, and then we have this edge here. So when I draw this, I'm also looking at what happens in this shape here. It's almost like a little curved triangle. So I can go from here, use those straight lines for that curve, and go from there. Alrighty, and what's the next thing? So I can join this up now. It kind of comes up here and curves, and then we can come here. Now this line, it lines up with this line, so I need to visualize that. So that comes around there. And I'm just blocking in right now. I'm not trying for perfection. All right, so now I need to imagine a line going across this way. It's called a plumb line. So that, if I did a plumb line from the top of that handle, it's about 1/3 of this. So I'm going to go about there. That's approximately where that handle goes. Okay, so I know this handle is going to come out a little ways, so I'll draw a little ways out that way. Now I feel a little stuck. I'm not sure how far over to go, so I'm going to go back to this edge and finish that off. Now I know I have this mug handle. What's happening there? So that looks like this guy kind of comes out, and if I look at this shape, it creates a little triangle in there as well. So I'm going to draw that. It's going to go a little bit past this line because this line represents this inside thing. So we need a little bit of width on that handle. And you can take an angle. We'll talk more about angles in the next video, but an angle can be taken like this. So you can make sure you're going off in the right direction. And it kind of curves over. And this comes over and curves over. So whatever you need to do, draw what you can see best at the moment. And make corrections when you need to. Alrighty, so that is the outside of that handle. Now I can go here and finish doing those straight lines for curves. Goes narrower, and it goes a little wider over here. So we have our handles put in there. Now we need the inside of that curve of the cup. Okay, so this line here, about 1/3. If I look, it's almost lined up with this top of that handle. So I can put a line there to tell myself that that's the case. Alrighty, little curved or straight lines to do the curve. And we can go there. And then we have this little shadow that's inside the cup. Starts about the middle, just to the right of the middle of this. So do corrections when you need to. And it kind of goes down here like that. And then we have these lines here. They're slightly on an angle. Alrighty, comes out through here. Because your hand wobbles a bit, you can make some corrections as you go along on this. Okay, so there we have a drawing of the mug, and you can make corrections a few ways. So you can take this plexiglass and line it up and see how you did, and I didn't do too badly. So anyways, that is a way of taking your three-dimensional object, drawing it onto the flat picture plane, and then transferring it onto your piece of paper. And that is called a 1-to-1 ratio. So this is, I'm drawing this the same size as that. Alrighty, so that's about all you need to do. So when you're first learning to draw, it is very handy to have a piece of plexiglass. You can take a permanent pen to draw on maybe a 5x7-ish shape on here and put those crosshairs on as well. And after a while of drawing, you will move on from using this and just being able to shut one eye and be able to see that in your mind's eye when you're drawing from the real world, three-dimensional, and putting it onto your paper. Kind of a fun thing to do. Oh, by the way, this is a non-permanent pen. I'm using a Staedtler Lumo color, and so this wipes off with a moist paper towel when you're done. And a kind of a fun thing to do is even to go up to one of your windows and shut your one eye and look through at your view and do some drawings. And then take your, but do start with some of these simpler shapes. You can take a mug, some scissors, and try some of these. You can move on to your hand. You can put your hand underneath the plexiglass and draw that as well, and then transfer it onto your paper and see how you do. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit like and subscribe to see future videos. Take care. Bye.